Welcome, everybody, to It's Never Too Late to Hit Reset and Start Over in Life and Love Summit. I'm Suzanne Oshima, and I'm a life and love transformational coach at Your Next Amazing Story. I'm so excited because we have a very special guest today, Dr. Kelly Shue. And today we're talking about self-love and surrender, the keys to magnetizing your man. But before we jump into it, I would love to tell you a little bit about Kelly. Dr. Kelly Martin Shue, DC, is an Amazon best-selling author, speaker, and transformational coach for women. At the age of 23, Dr. Kelly's life was forever changed when she contracted a highly stigmatized disease. Determined to help other women overcome sexual shame, she openly shared her story in her 2013 release of Live, Love, and Thrive with Herpes. As the founder of the Sacred Sisterhood, Pink Tent, Dr. Kelly has created a safe place for women with sexual abuse, STDs, and body shaming to rise above the ashes and soar above their stories. Single, successful women from around the world are gathering to share their deepest, darkest secrets in order to heal their inner goddess and create their happily ever after love story. Dr. Kelly received her doctorate from Parker University, where she graduated summa cum laude, and she also holds a bachelor's degree in psychology from the University of Colorado. She believes that conscious, empowered women will change the world and that it must start with our girls. As a result, she gives back a portion of her proceeds to the nonprofit Girls Leadership so that girls can have a voice. When she's not traveling the globe looking for her next adventure, she is living her happily after love story in Boulder, Colorado with her husband and daughter. So welcome, Kelly. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I know. And you have an amazing story. And I know it wasn't really easy for you in the beginning of going through the diagnosis of having herpes and, getting over that stigmatism and finding love again. Can you just share a little bit about your journey and how you overcame that? Because I know there's other women in this audience that are hiding because of that diagnosis, and they're afraid to get out there and date. And I don't want them to feel that way anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for me, it really started, going back to diagnosis, I call it my Kathmandu love buzzkill, right? It's like, here I was 23 years old. It's New Year's Eve. I'm all alone, 3,000 miles from family and friends. And I can remember a couple days prior to that, Dr. Pandy in her starch white lab coat with a woman's often, worst fears. And I can still hear her Indian accent, which I won't attempt to recreate. But, slowly out of her mouth, it's like, you have herpes. And it's like, oh my gosh. And my life came crashing down. And I can remember going back to my hotel room. And back in the day, we had Walkmans, and putting my Walkman on and listening to Sarah McLachlan and hoping that would soothe me, and in fetal position and just bawling my eyes out. And I really thought it was over, end game. Right. And so many women find themselves in that deep, dark place of isolation and shame, and they have this secret. And the way I describe it is, if you have if I hold my hands like this, there's kind of like the outside world and how you try to show up. And so you can be confident and strong and successful. And then there's kind of this inner world, and it feels disconnected. And then in between it is the shame. Yeah. And so that was the beginning of my shame story. And then I went on to try to go out and be in the world and be successful and, go to medical school. And so I put all of my energy of being the good girl. Right. And so, unfortunately in that process, I was attracting all the wrong kinds of guys. The first significant relationship after that was a man who really was emotionally abusive. He isolated me. I found myself isolated from my family, my friends. I moved to Texas to be with him. And, I felt, again, real disconnected. It's like, here's the outside man, there's this inside. Even now I have a boyfriend that I'm am shameful of what's really going on behind closed doors. And at that point in time, you know, remembering, you know, some tough things. I mean, I had sexual abuse in my history. So it's like I had this whole ball of shame, and I had all this love to share. And, you know, fast forward to getting out of that relationship and starting a business and going, okay, I've got this. I know I can do this. I got on Match.com and I'm like, okay, I've got it. I'm ready to, you know, like close the gap, let go of the shame. And I remember a man on our second or third date from Match.com, and he came into my office, and I had this beautiful office, you know, where I had this wellness-based practice. And last time I saw him, he ghosted me. And I'm like, oh, I can't get this love thing right. So remember my mom calling her on the phone. I was like, are my standards too high? What's wrong with me? And so many women think they're broken. Like, they should just give up on the love life. They're good at other things. They're confident, you know, they're up here, and then there's like the love life. And she's like, no, your standards actually aren't high enough.
Wow.
And that was like the truth bomb. And I'll never forget that. And then I decided, well, I better love myself, because I can't rely on somebody else loving me. So I hired a coach. I hired a personal growth coach. I started taking really good care of myself. I started that self-love journey, running, visualizing this man in my life and what it would look like and what it would feel like, following all the steps of like self-love. And then I decided to really invest in myself. And yeah, the game changer was when I married myself.
Oh, I love that. But before you marry yourself, I want to ask you about the shame piece. And
Yeah.
because and it's not just the shame about herpes, because
No.
I see a lot of women that carry around shame from other things. Maybe it was a breakup of a relationship or a divorce, or the shame of I'm all alone, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And or in their professional life, I'm not making enough money. So can you just give the ladies maybe three things that you did to help you work through the shame? Was a part of that actually admitting what was going on? Because I think when we hold it in as a secret, that's a part of the shame. It becomes like, oh, I have to hide.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and so we tend to, we're really great at, as women, as overcompensating, right? And we keep on coming back to what we're good at and putting all the energy there. So that first step is like really looking what's in the shadow, what's the secret that like keeps me so locked up, to close that gap between who I show on the outside and what's really going on the inside, to close the gap of shame. First thing is the acknowledgement, like, wow. And really, you know, realizing that that's holding them back. The second thing is self-love, like what I call radical self-love. You can't wait for somebody out there, like, oh, you know, when I meet him, when I meet my man, that will make all the difference. You know, and it's like, no, you gotta, it needs to be an energetic match. No one will love you as much as you love yourself. So I started a program of self-love, which included journaling, which included meditation, which included exercise. So it's like acknowledge what was wrong, the self-love journey, and then the surrender. You gotta let go. And that's not easy when you're a go-getter woman that knows how to do success in other areas of her life. Like, the surrender is the key. So those three steps: acknowledge what's wrong, you know, be willing to radically love yourself, and then let go.
Oh, I love that. And it's so true because, you know, strong, independent women, we're so in control of our lives. We make things happen. And it's scary for us to surrender, right? And just let go and say, whatever happens is the right thing that's going to happen as I take these steps forward in life, right?
Totally, totally. And I also see a lot of women dating, like I do a lot of training around like, really stepping into our feminine, our goddess energy, which is sometimes underdeveloped in very strong women because they think they need to show up as men in the world, which is the go, 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 do, 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 do. And so teaching these women that it's actually really beautiful to be vulnerable. And that is the essence of true partnership, when two people can come together and be vulnerable. So really teaching the art of vulnerability and having that as a tool for a deep connection.
Right, right. So now let's jump into, like, you lightly touched on the self-love, and I know you actually recommend dating yourself first as a
Absolutely.
form of self-love. So what does that really mean? Because I'm sure all the ladies in the audience are going, what? Date myself? I want to date men.
Right, right, exactly. So it can look like many different things, but like as simple as I have challenged women, you know, to get more comfortable with going out, like even by yourself, like go to a really nice restaurant and order whatever you want on the menu, or, you know, go out and take that class that you've always wanted. So I've had women who have, you know, they've always wanted to explore photography. So they'll go ahead and, you know, take a photography class or even a salsa class, you know, because they love to move their body. And what a great way to move that feminine energy. So don't wait for the partner for the date that you really want. And really fall in love with you. So I encourage women, like, set dates for yourself. And maybe a date is sitting in your bathtub with Epsom salts and a little bit of lavender and not feel guilty for it.
I love that. And you know, like when you were describing all the things that women should do when dating themselves, what I'm also hearing too is that it's time to be comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
And comfortable with, for many women, that's the most uncomfortable thing.
Yeah.
They're great in engaging and being with friends and all of that. And they're not so great at sitting still and listening to the internal thoughts of what is really holding them back. So it's like that ability to look at the monster in its eyes and be like, oh wow, there you are, you know. And we all have something. And to be with the feelings and stop running from them. It's like, be with the anger, be with the shame, be with all of these things so that they no longer control you. So that is done in the quiet time when you're with you.
Right. And also, I think that, you know, when you talked about that, you know, facing the monster in the eye is, you know, I think a lot of us avoid fear like it's a bad thing. And what I always find is when we're going to up level ourselves and move into something bigger or into something that we've never had or we really want, of course there's going to be fear because we're moving outside our comfort zone. And if there's not fear, then I'm like, well,
then you're not growing.
Yeah.
If there's not a little bit of fear, you're staying in your little comfy blanket, right?
Yeah.
Fear is a part of the journey and growth. It's like, I always said, you know, I love to ski. And so some of my metaphors come from skiing. And I can remember someone tell me once, throw your heart down the hill and then go catch it.
Oh, I love that. And I'm not even a skier. I love that.
Yeah, like live it up. Yeah, fear tells me you're growing and you're stepping into something different.
Oh, I love that. So now, if a woman has moved into that, the self love, she's feeling really good, at what point do you recommend that she get out there and date and start what you call magnetizing your man?
Yeah. So, well, what I will tell you is that there's never a perfect time. So for those ladies out there that you're waiting for the perfect time where your level of self-love is a 10 out of 10, ladies, it's never going to happen. Like, it is a constant process and growth process. So what I would say is, the women that I work with, we'll spend the first, maybe, I think a good time, like first couple months, right? To like really practice this new way of being and loving yourself. Some women, that's like the perfect amount of time. Now, if you were just divorced or you're just getting out of a relationship that was really unhealthy, it might take longer than that, right? And so you've got to look at the woman and what is going on presently for her. So for many women, if they've never explored the self-love journey, honestly, I say that's the first step, and it can take a couple months. I've seen women, it takes, longer than that. So we're all a little different. How do you know? You know when you can be, comfortable with even sharing your story, sharing what you've been shameful about with someone you trust. That's a good noticing how you are around that.
So this is interesting because when you said when you feel comfortable sharing your story, so I can see where a woman would share, go, okay, I think I'm ready to share whatever it is that she's shameful about to somebody that's close to her, family member or friend. And then right after she shares the story, there's a panic that goes off inside of her that goes, oh my God, I shouldn't have said that. And then she starts going down the rabbit hole of all these negative thoughts of, I shouldn't have told that story. And she wants to pull it back in, but it's too late. How can a woman deal with that after she shares it? Because I know that's scary, right?
Yeah, it's really scary. So one of my favorite practices is truly meditation and journaling, and surrounding yourself with people that are loving, that are supportive, because what you just described is totally a normal reaction. You can almost expect it, right? Like rabbits out of the hole. It's like women who, for example, what if they've been dating a narcissist or an alcoholic? Or, on the outside, again, there's this outside world, and to their friends, they're like, oh my gosh, he's the greatest guy, and she's been hiding, right? So she closes that gap, and the first step is she shared with a friend, and now she's embarrassed because she's thinking, wow, they're going to think, why would you ever put up with that? Right? Yeah. So whatever version of that is, what I would say is, you can almost expect it. Like you want to like pull the story back. And so really reflecting, hire a coach. That's what I did. I hired a coach that could help me work through those fears, because most of those fears, we make them so big and so much bigger than they are. So learning how to deal with what goes between the ears, because that's really the real biggest challenge.
Oh, I know. I'm so glad you said that, because it's about the mindset work and also the negative self-talk that we can go through. And then we go down the rabbit hole. And sometimes it's really hard to, when we're doing it alone, to pull ourselves out. And you're right. A coach can help you and not go, first of all, prevent you from going down the rabbit hole, but keep you up leveled to this other point where you're operating at a different level and you're not always going down the rabbit hole, right?
Absolutely. And find a community. Find a community. Maybe, it might be online, it might be local. But going back to coaching, one of the things I love about coaching, which is different than like therapy, is like, and I love therapy has its place too. So I'm not downing therapy, but what I love about coaching is we look at our clients like they're divine and perfect and there's nothing wrong with them. And that's the starting point. Like there's nothing wrong with you, right? So here's where you are, here's where you want to go. Let's close the gap. And what a beautiful relationship where there's, your friends have opinions and strong opinions, right? Coaching, when it's done really beautifully, it's a mirror and we hold you to your best version of you. So it's like that as women, we feel like when we give, it's like we need to give to receive. And in the coaching relationship, we hold them. We hold them in this place of they don't have to give back. Like it's sacred. And for a woman, that is huge, so huge. And really just receive all of that love and all of that support and all of that uplifting.
Yeah, I love that. So how else can a woman magnetize I should say the right man, because it's not just any man, right?
No, it's not. It's not. As my mother said, your standards aren't high enough. right? And so I'll tell you my journey. And as I said, for me, it's that I married myself. And this is a practice I use with a lot of women. And for me, my journey was a 1920s green zircon ring that caught my attention. And I'll tell you right now, it was $3,200, which was like, I would even consider spending that kind of money. And that's not, that was a lot of money for me. And yet I was dreaming about this ring, and what was the woman like that married, that it was probably a wedding ring, right? And what was her life like? And I couldn't get this ring out of my mind. And I realized there was a big part of me that felt unworthy of it. And, I'll just wait till someday I meet that man and, I'll get the ring. Like, again, not about the money, but what I realized, it was about the worthiness. And so I felt unworthy of it. And so it was a Saturday morning, it was a rainy day, and my cutoff jeans, and I'd been salsa dancing the night before with my friends, of course, coming home alone again with my little kitties and thinking, am I ever going to have that man by my side? And I woke up that morning, and I went down to the antique store, and I had my checkbook in my back pocket. And I thought, I can't afford not to do this. Because if I don't really start investing myself and staking a claim for love, who's going to do it for me? And so I went and bought the ring.
Oh, I love that.
It was like, I felt like when I would, looking on that hand, like, oh my gosh, I felt so worthy. I felt like a queen. I really did. And fast forward to me meeting my man, I was doing a lot of visualizations, like doing everything that, self-help books tell you do. And I can remember imagining, I had a white picket fence, and I was living in downtown Boulder. And for some reason, this vision of a red comforter and laying with this man, like on a rainy day, like I had it all, like this visualization. I would run that through my mind when I'd go running. So fast forward, I met my man, and it was on a blind date, and a mutual friend set us up. And on the second date, I'll never forget, he said, when can I see you again? And to me, that was like so sexy, like, not can I? And that was like, oh my, this guy is serious. So fast forward to engagement time. I had this ring, and there was 2 little diamonds that had fallen out. And he's like, sweetie, we should really, really get that fixed, right? And so we went back to and he also wanted to look at engagement rings. So we went back to the store. We wanted to get that ring fixed and see what it would cost, but we also were looking at engagement rings. Long story short, come to find out, the ring, the reason why the diamonds were falling out is because someone had fixed it years ago with metals that were dissimilar. And so what they couldn't fix it. And they would have to like unassemble the whole thing. But I share this with you because he came into my life, and it was ready to exchange that ring for the engagement ring. It was like that had died. It had served its purpose. I learned how to love myself. I magnetized my man, and then it was replaced with an engagement ring. And that ring is still disassembled in my safe as we stand now. One of these days, I'll get it redone.
Oh my God. I love that story. That's an amazing story.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I like get chills from that, because it's true. It's like it served its purpose, and you were ready to move forward because you married yourself, but now you are ready to marry your man.
Totally. And the ring wouldn't have fit on any other fingers either. Isn't that crazy? Like, I tried it. I was like, so it was like, I use a lot of spiritual practices and working with women, finding their inner queen to attract their king. And in doing so, it's like really allowing that surrender of it's all, and I'll say from my language, it's all in God's timing. For another person might be, it's all, in good timing or whatever it is. You can't make this stuff happen. Self-love and surrender.
And I love that you said that about self-love, surrender, and really embracing where you're at, and not forcing it. But I also want to ask you about, because I've been noticing lately where I feel like there's a lot of what I call single shaming going on.
Yeah.
And I really want to talk about how a woman shouldn't be embarrassed that she's single, that she should really embrace that and really stand in her power. Because I find that women get embarrassed when they go to the holiday dinners or whatever it is, or weddings, and they go, "Oh, you're still single." And then she
Oh, yeah,
doesn't
that like, yeah,
so
absolutely.
can you give the women a little bit of encouragement so that they don't feel that it's interesting, that shame of
It's another level of shame,
yeah.
right? And the other thing that I'll hear is like, especially women when they're in the age range of being able to start families,
Hmm.
right? So you have that, and then you have, you know, women at different age groups. So it's like the shaming of like, why aren't you married with kids? Or, you know, the divorced women of like, you know, your standards. You just you're too. You hear all the twos. Like you're just. What am I trying to say? Like their idea is perfection, and when that, we're in reality, that's true, not true. So the first thing I would say is like in the moment, like those comments are going to come up, right? So the trick is how do you respond to those comments, right? So if you respond with an energy level that drops the victim, if you allow that inner victim that owns the shame, if you allow her to come up, we can name her, you know, the Doobie Downer. If like Doobie Downer Debbie shows up in response, then you're going to flood yourself with all those feelings of shame and it's going to become amplified. But when you walk in a room in those kinds of settings and you can almost not expect it, but it happens a lot, you can respond in a way that it's like, oh, with excitement, like anticipation of, wow, yeah, I haven't found him, but I know he's coming, right? And I can see him and I can feel him. And when you respond with such positive energy, what happens to the shame? It collapses and that person moves to the next conversation because there's no energy there. There's no energy to address other than, wow, she's ready. He's
Yeah.
coming. So it's
Yeah.
all about the response. And when you do that, you flood your body with the emotions of you're happily ever after, like a little kid on Christmas Eve. The presents are coming.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can I add one more piece into that?
Yeah, you
So
can have more than one. It's your show.
well, I believe that, you know, the response is very important, like how you respond. But I also believe that it's feeling it within your heart, and like how you talked about doing that inner work of being okay that you're single and where you're at. And so really doing the inner work in here and going, I'm in a really good place. I'm excited for what's about to come. I don't know what's going to come, but Kelly's story inspired me, and I'm just going to trust that it's going to unfold in the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was actually listening to an interview not too long ago, but they were talking about that sometimes it takes several dates. And this particular woman had been on like 79 coffee dates, like something, but you know what? She was unstoppable in her commitment to love. Like she knew that it was part of her journey. And it was like on the 80th date, she found her man and then created her happily ever after. So we never know how long that gap is, but know that it's coming. It's
Yeah.
coming. And there's so many women that have stories that can uplift you, and choose those stories to focus on, because there's also stories, and you'll hear women, you know, in that realm of like, oh, dating, oh, it's so tough, like all the negativity. And if you allow yourself to be in that negativity, then you're going to create more of it for yourself. So it's like, it's really being unstoppable and a stand for the amazing story you're committed to.
I love that. Well, this has been amazing, Kelly. So I know you have a free gift for the ladies. So can you tell them about it?
Yes. So we developed a quiz to help women to identify their inner goddess. There are 7 goddess archetypes that we've identified. And when women start to own their gifts, it allows them to really fall in love with themselves, because we're all unique. we all have many gifts to share in partnership and in the world and with our friends. And so this quiz, in my opinion, is that first step so that you really can start loving up on yourself. Okay. And then from there, we help women to move into what I call the goddess energy, where she owns her gift, she owns her inner goddess, and she becomes a magnet for the correct man to manifest. So currently, it stands. Actually, I think I sent it to you. I don't have the website. You'll put it in the notes, right, under the podcast.
Actually, yeah. So everybody, if you'd like to get Kelly's free gift, you can click on the link right here on the page and go get her free gift. So thank you, Kelly, so much for sharing your personal journey, because I know that really inspired a lot of women and to help them move forward and finding love again.
Absolutely. So much fun.